Welcome to another 5-minute video. This is one of a series of videos for the Level 3 Technical Certificate tutorials. Today we're going to talk about broke. So sources of broke and treatment of broke, mainly sources of broke. There are essentially two types of broke. There's wet broke and there's dry broke. Where do we get them from? Wet broke is anything that we get out of the couch pit or the hog pit, depending on what you call it, or from anywhere in the press section. Anywhere before you've started to dry the sheet is wet broke. And wet broke and dry broke behave very, very differently. Where do we get dry broke from? Well, you've sources on the machine, so anywhere within the dry section or perhaps coming out the size press or reel trim at the end of the machine. And then after the machine, maybe produced in the calendar stack, from a winder or a rewinder, from a sheeter, or your QA, QC people may reject it. So let's have a look at the properties. What do we know about wet broke? With wet broke, the fibres have never ever been dried. Because the fibres have not been dried, their nature has not changed in any way. And because the nature of the fibre hasn't changed in any way, then the fibres behave just like any old stock fibre. Any old fibre from the machine chest onwards, it's exactly the same as wet broke. You can simply take it, redisperse it easily, and use it without a second thought. The problem is dry broke. With dry broke, the fibres have been fully or partially dried. Because they've been dried, they've undergone a change within the body of the fibre. So because fibres have undergone a change, they behave differently. And another problem you've got is that they're stuck together as well. So not only have you got a problem of how to deal with the fibres, you've got to get the individual fibres first by tearing up that sheet. What are the changes? There are changes to the internal structure of the fibre. There's fibre-fibre bonding, so bonding between fibres to make a sheet. And very often in that furnish, you won't just have fibres there, you'll also have chemicals. You have things like sizing agents and wet strength agents and dry strength agents. And these need various degrees of curing. The big problem with recycled fibre is this phenomena of hornification. Hornification means the stiffening of a fibre. If you remember what the structure of a fibre is, you've got these four walls, the primary wall, the S1, the S2, the S3. And each of those walls is discrete in itself. And it's held in contact with each of the other walls by hydrogen bonds, but there's a bit of a gap in between. Refining is all about pushing water into that gap, making the fibre bigger and therefore more flexible. When you dry fibres, you take that water out, you actually get those walls closer together than they ever were. And that in turn will make the fibre stiffer. And this was first recognised by a guy called Dr. Derek Page from PPRIC in Canada many years ago. And he termed this stiffening of fibres hornification. So every time you dry fibres, this is what you're doing. You are reducing the flexibility of the fibre. By reducing the flexibility of the fibre, you're reducing the contact area between that and any other fibre it crosses. And if you reduce the contact area, reducing bonding. So this is an example, a visual example here. So if we have two virgin fibres, very flexible, lots of contact area. You make a piece of paper from it, at which point you dry the fibres. By drying the fibres, you make them stiffer. So now this fibre is stiffer than this one, so there's less contact area, therefore reduced bonding. You take that piece of paper that's now been dried again, that's made the fibre even stiffer, and so you now have even less contact area. So that's how it works. Derek Page did an interesting set of experiments. As you can see here, he took a piece of paper and repulped it 5 times. And each time he made a new piece of paper, he measured not just the long span tensile strength, but the strength of the fibres and the strength of the bonds between the fibres. And he showed that the fibre strength hardly decreased. It was the bond strength between the fibres that decreased. This is a little bit of data that he produced showing that burst and tensile constantly decrease. Tear actually increases a little bit and then catastrophically fails. Because of course with recycled fibre, because the fibres are stiffer, when you come to repulp them, they're more likely to snap than they are to bend and absorb water. So every time they snap, you're reducing fibre length, and tear is very, very sensitive to fibre length. This is the mechanism, this is what's going on. So we've got the fibre here, there's the primary wall, bit of a gap, S1 wall, bit of a gap, S2 wall, bit of a gap, S3, and then this is where the lumen of the fibre will be. If that's a virgin fibre, you do some refining, that makes these gaps bigger because it pumps water inside. Then you dry it when you make your first bit of paper, and these gaps have now shrunk. You repulp it, and you make it into another piece of paper, so you dry it again, and those gaps shrink again. And you dry it, and it happens again. So there's 3 recycles there. So each time you are reducing this gap, and that's making the fibre stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. And it's generally agreed that you could recycle a fibre up to 7 times before it's completely useless. Other than changes to the fibre, we're also getting changes to chemicals within the furnish. Size and wet strength I mentioned earlier, they cure on drying. They can take up to 21 days to actually fully cure, but they start to cure immediately. So what that should tell you is if you've got some dry broke, the quicker you can repulp it, the better it is. If you took some dry broke and repulped it at the end of the shift in which it was made, it would probably repulp fairly easily. If you wait 21 days till those wet strength agents and sizing agents have been fully cured, it will be tremendously difficult to repulp it. It'll take a lot more energy, it'll take a lot more time, and you'll do a lot more damage to the fibres. There'll be a lot more broken fibres and they'll be a lot shorter. If you're repulping wet strength papers, it should be done in a low consistency pulper, not a high consistency pulper. HC pulpers don't have the power that you need. You need to repulp at somewhere between 70 and 90 degrees C, and depending on the nature of the wet strength agent, if you're using MF or UF resins, it's better to use acid conditions, somewhere between pH 2 pH 4. If you're using a more mod material like chymene, they're better repulped in alkaline conditions around about pH 10, so caustic soda or sodium carbonate. So a summary of what we've said in this section: wet broke you get from the couch pits or presses, that's no problem, it can be reused very easily. Dry broke, you can either get it from the machine, such as from the drying section from the size press, or trim from the reel up, or you've got post machine sources such as the calendar, the sheeter, the winder, the rewinder, rejected by QA or even customer returns. The characteristics of dry broke: you've got internal changes to the fibres, which is hallafication, the stiffening of the fibre. You've got fibre-fibre bonding, forming a sheet that you've got to pull apart before you can do anything to the fibres themselves. And then you've got the curing of materials like wet strength agents and sizes. They will increase the fibre-fibre bonding, making it more difficult to fall apart, and they will also make the surface more hydrophobic, making it more difficult to get the water in to help to pull it apart. And finally, with dry broke repulping, got no chemicals in the sheet, you can simply use a deflaker. But if you have chemicals like sizing agents or wet strength agents, you do need far more aggressive pulping methods. So you want a low consistency pulper. The longer you wait, the worse it's going to be, the more energy it's going to cost you, the more damage you'll get to the fibres. Acid conditions from FNUF resins, alkaline conditions for chymine type material. Thank you for listening to this short video, and please follow us on this social media.